Is there anything more frustrating in sports than watching your favorite team try to navigate a minefield of rules, regulations, and financial gymnastics, all while the clock is ticking down to a new season? It feels like the Montreal Canadiens are constantly playing chess, but with half the pieces missing and the board tilted against them. Welcome back, Habs fans, to another deep dive into the pulse of our beloved Canadiens. We're standing on the precipice of a new season, a time usually filled with optimism and the fresh scent of ice. But for the Habs, it's also a period of intense financial strategizing. The long-standing saga of Carey Price's contract, a ghost on the salary cap sheet, continues to haunt the Bell Center. While we all adore Price for his legendary contributions, his contract, unfortunately, remains a significant hurdle in Kent. Hughes' meticulous rebuild plan. The goal, as we know, is to move that contract, to free up precious cap space that could be the difference between a good opportunity and a missed one. But just when you thought the situation couldn't get more complex, the NHL, in its infinite wisdom, decided to throw a new curveball with recent changes to the collective bargaining agreement. These aren't just minor tweaks. They're fundamental shifts that have suddenly made the already daunting task of offloading Price's deal even more intricate, putting the Canadiens in a tighter spot than ever before. For years, the hockey world has been acutely aware of the Carey Price situation. A generational talent, a franchise cornerstone, whose career was tragically cut short by injury, leaving his substantial contract on the books. While he's on long-term injured reserve, LTIR, which provides some cap relief, it's not a clean solution. LTIR is a temporary bandage, not a permanent cure for cap inflexibility. It limits a team's ability to accrue cap space throughout the season, which is vital for making strategic moves, whether it's acquiring a rental at the trade deadline or taking on a contract to facilitate another deal. For a team like the Canadiens, deep in a rebuild, every dollar of cap space is gold. It represents the freedom to pounce on an opportunity, to add a missing piece, or to simply have the financial breathing room to navigate the inevitable bumps and bruises of an NHL season. Moving Price's contract permanently would unlock a level of financial agility that Kent Hughes desperately needs to accelerate this rebuild and truly compete for the future. It's not just about shedding a number. It's about gaining the strategic advantage necessary to build a perennial contender. Now let's talk about the wrench in the gears. The new rules that have suddenly made this entire endeavor a high-stakes game of financial Jenga. For a while, teams had a clever, albeit slightly cheeky, workaround for cap issues, especially at the start of the season. It was known as documenting prospects. Essentially, a team could temporarily assign a prospect to the AHL, even if that player had no intention of actually reporting or playing there. This paper transaction would briefly alleviate salary cap concerns, creating a bit of temporary financial wiggle room. It was a useful, if unconventional, tool for general managers looking to fine-tune their rosters and ensure compliance before the puck dropped on opening night. It gave them a precious window of flexibility, a chance to breathe before the real grind began. However, the new CBA rules have effectively slammed that window shut. The days of purely documentary assignments are over. Under the revised regulations, if a player is designated for the AHL, they now have to actually play at least one game in the minor league before they can be recalled. This isn't just a minor administrative change. It's a seismic shift in how teams manage their cap. What was once a quick, paper-based solution for immediate cap relief has become a much slower, more cumbersome process. It means that the Canadiens can no longer simply shuffle a few players down to the Laval Rocket for a day or two to free up space. This change has a direct, tangible impact on Montreal's cap situation, making it significantly more complex. It adds layers of logistical challenges and removes a valuable tool from Kent Hughes' arsenal, forcing him to find more permanent and immediate solutions for cap compliance. The immediate consequence? The Canadiens have lost a significant amount of their leverage in any potential trade discussions involving Price. Their options are fewer, and the pressure to find a willing trade partner before the season kicks off has intensified dramatically. So, with the Habs' hands somewhat tied by these new regulations, what's the going rate for taking on a substantial contract like Carey Price's? Insider Renaud Lavoie recently floated a fascinating and perhaps sobering suggestion. Teams might now be asking for a second-round draft pick from the Canadiens to absorb Price's contract. Now, before we all collectively gasp and throw our Habs jerseys at the TV, it's important to frame Lavoie's comment. He was, as he often is, speaking out loud, offering an educated guess on market value rather than reporting on concrete, ongoing negotiations. It's a speculative price, yes, but one that makes a lot of sense in the current landscape. Why would a team demand a second-round pick for what essentially amounts to a salary dump? The reasons are multifaceted and strategic. For some teams, especially, those in a rebuild or those struggling to meet the league's salary floor, taking on a contract like Price's, even if he's on LTIR, can be beneficial. It helps them reach or stay above the minimum cap threshold, which is a requirement. But more importantly, in an era where draft picks are currency, a second-round selection is a valuable asset. It represents a chance to acquire a future impact player, a prospect who could be a key piece of their own long-term plans. Consider a team like the San Jose Sharks, for example. Even if they start the season above the cap floor by placing a player on LTIR, they might still need to add salary later in the season. If they decide to trade valuable veterans like Tyler Toffoli or Alexander Wenberg at the trade deadline for future assets, a common strategy for rebuilding teams, their payroll would decrease. To ensure they remain above the salary floor throughout the entire season, absorbing a contract like Price's, even with the attached draft pick cost, becomes a viable and attractive option. It's a strategic play, a way to gain assets while managing their own cap requirements. This brings us to the ultimate dilemma facing Kent Hughes and his management team. Hughes has built a reputation for being a shrewd negotiator, a general manager who consistently makes trades that are highly beneficial for the Canadiens, both in the short and long term. He's not one to be easily fleeced. So, the question becomes, is a second-round pick an irrational price to pay for the freedom that moving Price's contract would provide? On one hand, giving up a valuable draft pick stings, especially for a team in a rebuild that relies heavily on prospect acquisition. A second-round pick can yield a very good NHL player. However, we must weigh that cost against the immense benefit of completely clearing Price's contract from the books. The financial flexibility it would provide would be transformative. It would open up significant cap space, allowing Hughes to pursue opportunities to improve the roster, whether through free agency, trades, or simply having the financial cushion to take on a contract that might be necessary to acquire another key asset. It would ensure the Canadiens maintain their upward trajectory in this long-term rebuild. It's a strategic investment in the team's future, a way to ensure they have the resources to capitalize on any chance to get better. And let's not forget, the Canadiens are in a relatively strong position regarding future picks, currently holding 2 second-round selections in 2026, their own and the one acquired from the Columbus Blue Jackets in the Patrick Lane trade. This gives Hughes a bit more wiggle room, a potential asset he could leverage without completely gutting his draft capital. But here's the kicker. What if no team is truly desperate to hit the salary floor? What if the market for absorbing contracts is soft? In that scenario, the Canadiens would have no choice but to sweeten the pot, potentially adding another asset or retaining a portion of Price's salary, further increasing the cost of this crucial transaction. The pressure on Kent Hughes to get this done before the regular season begins is immense. Having that cap space available from day one could be the difference between a proactive, opportunistic season and one where the team is constantly reacting to financial constraints. So, as we look ahead to the start of the season, the Carey Price contract situation remains a critical, high-stakes puzzle for the Montreal Canadiens. The new CBA rules have undeniably complicated matters, stripping the Habs of some valuable leverage and forcing Kent Hughes to navigate an even trickier landscape. The potential cost of a second-round pick, while significant, might ultimately be a necessary investment to unlock the financial freedom that is so vital for the team's ongoing rebuild. How Hughes chooses to play his hand will not only define the immediate financial flexibility of the team, but also set a crucial precedent for how the Canadiens approach their long-term strategic goals. It's a delicate balance, a high-wire act, where every decision has profound implications for the future of our beloved Habs. What do you think, Habs fans? Is a second-round pick a fair price to pay for the cap freedom? Or should Kent Hughes hold firm and try to find a cheaper solution? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.